Exciting shipper updates there from Anthony Smith.
Always. It is a big day of released numbers. Very interesting. We'll catch up with him a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're going to welcome our next live guest. We've got Adam Perlmutter from Metaphora with us today, continuing this series of one Metaphora guest a week. We love to see it. And so Adam, thank you for joining us today on FreightWaves Now.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, and you are a senior industry consultant over there at Metaphora. So before we talk a little bit about what we're getting into today, tell us a little bit about your job. We're pretty familiar with Ryan Schreiber and with Peter Rentschler here on our programming, but tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, great, thanks. So my background is on the carrier sales side of the house. Been a part of the truckload brokerage and logistics industry really ever since I graduated college. So that was 15 plus years ago, kind of dating myself there. So I'm an industry consultant here, subject matter expert. I lead our team of SMEs here, and we work together with our clients to really understand some of the issues that they're going through and help work together with them to come up with solutions to drive their business forward. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to continue there, but I love the SME. He's the lead SME.
The lead SME.
That's right.
Excellent stuff. We're going to talk about capacity strategy. What is capacity strategy? What do you mean by capacity strategy, Adam?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. So it's a topic that we're passionate about. We talk about it all the time, and we feel like not enough people pay enough attention to it. So capacity strategy is really two main components. It's how you go to market with your carriers, and then how do you sell liquidity to your customers. So really based on the answers to those questions, you then have to consider how to build the rest of your capacity organization to support that. So that includes like how you design the team from an operating model and resource allocation perspective, the data sources that you're using, and the data that you capture and utilize to understand your carrier services, and then the carrier's network needs to drive impactful, meaningful matching, sourcing tools available to the team and how the team uses those tools, the communication platforms your team is leveraging to interact with your carrier network, how to structure incentives for the team to drive the right behaviors, and then how do you prioritize what loads or opportunities people are working on.
I feel like capacity strategy is something that is a really, really nuanced thing when you're talking about a business. And it varies completely from brokerage to brokerage, and even from almost like team leader to team leader if you're looking really deeply inside your business. Can you talk a little bit about how, from a manager standpoint, or even from a high-level leader standpoint in your business, you can decide what strategy management techniques work best for you? Is there certain metrics you should look for when deciding, okay, we want to use this strategy versus this strategy, or is it more of kind of like this intrinsic, our core values will dictate the strategy that we want to use?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it certainly is not a one-size-fits-all type of solution. But some things to consider when sort of determining what your strategy is, and ultimately determining if your capacity strategy is working, is like, do you provide a competitive cost to serve? Like, what's the cost for you to source a match? And then after you book a load, like, what's the cost to your business to service that load? And then also, like, does your carrier network provide predictable and reliable liquidity in the lanes that you're running consistently? And basically determining, like, are you like a figure it out brokerage? That's what I like to call for, like, if you win an opportunity, you don't really have a plan in place to service the loads. You're just sort of figuring it out. So you want to be able to build a structure that provides you predictable and reliable liquidity so that you can confidently go to market and sell to your clients into your liquidity of your network. And you're not just trying to figure it out, but you have a plan in place and you have a structure to support.
All makes complete sense, Adam. And you know, my tendency has always been, I love those challenges of just sell it and then we'll figure it out. It's kind of fun. It makes it interesting, but it's better success when you already have a plan and you sell something you can do, is what I've learned. But
Absolutely.
But it all makes sense, and it's something that you want. So what is the strategy? How does one build a solid and successful capacity management system?
Yeah, so again, it sort of depends on your flavor of what your business is trying to go to market with and how do you service your clients. But certainly some things to start with, like some key things that we see that are commonalities between like high performing capacity organizations. Like three main things that we see really across the board that are pretty common is that there's like a strategic sourcing team. So that's different from just like your run of the mill coverage department. People who are going out and actually like identifying strategic partners. I know you guys had Peter on a week or so ago talking about the importance of partnerships. Same goes with building relationships with the carriers you work with. You want to find those strategic partners to support your business. The second thing is you want to have a carrier CRM. So somewhere where you're collecting valuable information from your carriers, such as like their booking behavior, the characteristics that they're looking for in terms of like the freight opportunities that fit best into their network needs to really drive those impactful matches. So a centralized source of truth to really store that information. And then lastly, digital tracking adoption. So really table stakes out there to have digital tracking, but are you driving adoption within your team? If you are, you're really lowering that cost to serve. So that's a big component there as well. So those are like three main things that we see across the board that successful capacity organizations are really driving.
So sometimes when you're just starting out in the industry, you have to undergo some time in that figure it out space before you can start to be choosy and selective about the partnerships that you're bringing to the table and about the capacity strategy that you're bringing to the table as well. You're in that space of figuring out, okay, what sticks, what works for me and what works for my team. Can you talk a little bit about that inflection point or the tipping point? When does a business or a brokerage get from that point where we're just having to figure it out to now, okay, we can afford to be choosy with the decisions that we make in our strategy?
Sure. I think the most important thing that you can do is really listen to your carriers, understand where they go to view their opportunities, where they want to go to execute bookings, and then try to meet them where they are. So then when you're trying to determine like what technology tools, what sourcing tools, what data sources are going to work best for your team, try to understand where your carriers are, your strategic partners that you've identified as being high performing partners who you trust, and go out there and try to cater to their needs and meet them where they are. And the most important thing that you can do is really treat those carriers as partners and less like transactional vendors, which I feel like we see all across the industry. So like if you're treating your carriers like partners and really listening to them and like listening to their wants and needs, it then makes the decisions a lot easier of where to go out and how to meet them and cater to them. And that really like makes you a preferred booking partner for your high performing carriers.
Adam, as we're looking forward to the future of the industry, we talk a lot about the future of automation and digitization when it comes to those booking processes and procedures, and it kind of wavers back and forth. How do you get the efficiency of automation but still keep that personal touch of building relationships through your capacity strategy? Do you see that, you mentioned the importance of reaching out to your carriers and really listening to them, and you lose that if you're doing everything digitally or automated. Can you talk a little bit about how that personal touch is something that's going to stay around a little bit and might hinder the automation process?
Yeah, sure. So regardless of your automation strategy, it is important to build that personal relationship with the carrier, and that starts up front. So when you have that strategic sourcing team that's going out to market, identifying the right partners, they're asking the questions up front of how the carrier wants to book, how they want to see their freight opportunities. And if they want to book on a bid board, or if they want to have a book it now feature, like that doesn't hinder your ability to automate the process, but you're driving those opportunities to those carriers in an automated way after you've sort of vetted that that's how they want to book. There are always going to be carriers that are going to want to book the old school way, pick up the phone, discuss the details, ask the questions, know that there's someone on the other end. And that's okay too. The most important part is just understanding how your carriers want to book. So you can have a little bit of both. You know, you can drive automation through the Book It Now feature if that's how your carriers want to book. And if you have some carriers that prefer to book it over the phone, like you should execute that way as well.
Excellent advice. Lots of interesting and really good information, Adam. How do people get in touch with you if they want to talk to who is, you've definitely proven yourself to be the lead SME. How do they get in touch with you and at Metaphor to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, you can check me out on LinkedIn. I'm also the co-host. We have a podcast at Metaphora called the Extra Mile Podcast. It's myself and the strongest man in logistics, Robert Bain. You can also come visit us at the TIA conference in San Diego at the beginning of next month. We'll have a booth out there. Ryan Schreiber will be talking a little bit more in depth about capacity strategy. But feel free to reach out, shoot me an email. My email is aperlmutter@metaphora.net. And yeah.
Good stuff, Adam. I'll see you guys in San
me.
Diego in a couple of weeks. Thanks for being on.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Excellent stuff.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to toss it to you another quick break, and we'll be back to wrap up your first hour of FreightWaves Now here in just a few minutes.